Hi and welcome tonight. What I'm going to do is do a quick video on how to work with HashMaps in Java. We had talked about HashMaps a couple of weeks ago. I gave a brief example on the board, but I didn't really give some code examples of how to use it. So I thought that I would spend a few minutes at least showing you how to use HashMaps in Java. That way you'll get some idea about how they're actually used in real life and how they're used to help you process data files. So what I've got here on the screen is kind of a typical data file, which is I have what are called key value pairs. Key is something like name, and the value is the actual name. Key is age, value is 37. Key is occupation, value is programmer. And if I wanted to write a computer program to process this file, let's say there's a specific question about this file I want to ask, like I want to print out the name and the address of this person. So I want John Doe and 123 Main Street. That's what I want. So a typical way to attack this problem would be to read this file in one line at a time. And when you encountered a line that started with the word name, then you know that the person's name was sitting there. And then if you encountered the word address, then you'd know the address was sitting there. And that'd be fine. So they would be able to answer that specific question. What's the name and address of this person? But there's a couple of things you might want to think about when you're processing a file like this. One is, do the key value pairs occur in exactly the order that you're expecting? For example, I've got here name, age, occupation, address, city, state, and zip code. But what if they came in a different order? What if they came, let's say, city, and then occupation, and then address, and then name, and then zip, and so forth? Would your program still be able to work in that situation where the key value pairs came in a different order? And the other is, would it be able to work if the number of key value pairs was different? Like let's say later on this file contained more information, would it still work in that way? And also, would you be able to adapt this program to work with, or to be able to answer a different question? For example, if you wrote it to print out the name and address of this person now, what if later on we wanted to know let's say the age and the zip code? Would your program be able to adapt to that? So how much would you have to change? And so the way I approach this problem is instead of trying to surgically pull out just the information I need, why don't I just pull it all into one data structure, pull everything, the entire file into one data structure, and then very quickly pull out the information that I'm looking for. And that way, if the specification for the program changes in the future, I can very quickly adapt it. And so a hash map is perfect for this because it allows me to read in all of these key value pairs, put them into a data structure, then I know that everything is there, and then I can pull out the information that I need. So I've called this file data.txt, and I've put it into the same folder with the program that I'm going to be creating here, and that way I can just refer to it by its file name. So let's create a new class, and let's just call this, I don't know what to call it. Let's call it extract. So public class extract. And so what I need is a method that will read in this entire file and return the hash map to me. Now I could do this all in the main if I wanted, but I'm going to show you how to make a method out of it. So let's call this method read file. Okay, and then we give it a file name as parameter to it. Oh, and what this thing is going to return is a hash map. Okay, so the first thing we need to do here is import java.util.hashmap. All right, and so what I'm doing here is so this is a hash map of what? What a hash map, it consists of key and value pairs. So I need to tell it what type of thing is the key and what type of thing is the value. So this is going to return a hash map consisting of a string for the key and a string for the value. Now in this case, they're both strings. They don't have to be. If you had some different data file that consisted of just keys that were strings and values that were numbers, you'd probably do something like string and integer here. Or, so the types don't have to be the same. They can be mixed. So this read file is going to be given a file name, and it's going to return a hash map consisting of strings for the keys and strings for the values. It's been a while actually since I've worked with files, so I'm going to try to do this kind of from my notes here. But I think the way you do it is you go scanner in equals new scanner, and then the parameter to that is the file that you want to read. So you say new file, and then we'll use our file name here, file name. And then I think you have to do like a try catch. Try, catch, something like that. And so inside the try, we're going to be reading from this file. So I think that's going to be like a do while, do something while, let's see, string line, and I'll go do line equals in.next. Okay, so this statement here says get the next line out of the file and put it into a variable called line. And then we'll do that while line is not equal to null. I think that's the way we do it. So we're basically going to read from this file, and we're going to keep doing that until line becomes null, indicating that we've reached the end of the file. And let me just see if this compiles. Oh, catch, is it IO exception? Scanner, doesn't know what scanner is, so that's import java.io.scanner, and then import java.io.file. Scanner, no. Like I said, it's been a while since I worked with this. Here we go. Oh. IO exception, all right, we're getting there. Import java.io exception. Good, we're getting there. All right. So before we do all this, I'm going to say hash map of string and string equals new. Oh, let's give this a name. Let's call this data. Equals, let's call it person. Equals new hash map of string and string. Good. And then down here we say return person. IO exception? Okay. Do I need to do this in a try catch? I am not entirely sure. I've got a question. Am I a teacher or is this just a hobby? No, I actually am a teacher. And so these videos are actually kind of intended to supplement the instruction I'm doing in the classroom. So sometimes I omit some things in the classroom, sometimes I gloss over them, sometimes I want to give a preview of what I'm doing in the future class. So I do these little videos to kind of get everyone caught up and make sure everyone's on the same page. So good question, thank you. All right, so the exception is never thrown in the body of corresponding try statement. So IO exception, let's just put exception there. I'm going to punt. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, so the try has to go way up here. Let's see. Unindent that. Scanner, okay, string line do, while, get rid of that one. Oh, wait a minute. What am I doing wrong here? See, this is what happens when I take, okay, this goes here, that goes there, that goes there, that goes there, there. There we go. That looks better. Okay. And I'm just going to put this in here so that the exception will just cause cause a stack trace to happen, which is actually the default behavior. The important stuff is what's going on up here. So I'm punting here by just catching all possible exceptions that could be thrown. I'm really focusing on the meat of the program, which is this section right in here where I am putting the data into the hash map. Okay, so we're going to loop through, reading in a line at a time. And then what I want to do is, so each one of those lines is going to be one of these things here. So I need to take name and John Doe, and I need to cut them apart so that they're in their individual pieces. So I'm going to use a method of string called split. And I'm going to split on the colon, because that's what separates the two pieces. So let's see, split returns an array of strings. So I'll go string array key value equals line.split, and I'll split on the colon there. Okay, so now I've got the two pieces sitting in a string array. The 0th element is the word name, and the first element, the number 1 element, is John Doe. And then for the second line, the 0th element will be age, and the number 1 element will be 37. Okay, so now I'm going to say person.put. And so this is how we're going to insert things into the hash map. And so when you put something in, you need to give it the key and the value. So we'll say key value 0 and key value 1. All right, so we're going to put into the hash map the 0th element, which is the word name, and the number 1 element, which is John Doe. Okay, and then we're just going to loop, 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 loop until everything's in, and then we're going to return it. There's one more thing we need to do, which is, can we say in.close here? No, this is a finally. Nope. I guess I have to do that up here. In.close. There we go. Yeah, okay, so open the file, read it in, and then close it. All right, so let's try this out. Extract e equals new extract. And then I should be able to say e dot, I forgot the name of the method already, e dot read file, data.txt. Oh, we got a, what is this? Index out of bounds exception. Whoa. Okay, did not expect that. So what happened here? So I did line.split. I split on the colon, and then it says index out of bounds. So I don't quite know what happened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment this out, and I'm going to print this. System.out.print line key value. Okay, I should just be able to print out the whole array. Good. Let's clear that. And run it again. Oh, look at that. What went wrong there? So actually what I want to do, instead of printing out key value, is I just want to print out line and see if I'm getting what I expect to be getting. Like I said, it's been a while since I've worked with files, so I apologize for this. Now, that's okay. So actually, I'm sorry. I don't want the next method here. The next just returns one next word out of the file. I actually want something like next line, is it? Yeah. There we go. That's what I want. Okay, now we're on track. So I should now be able to comment that out, bring this back in. Did it crash? No line found. No such element. Oh, no line found on that one. All right, hold on. I need to clear this, and I need to rerun this. Okay. No line found. On next line. Okay. Oh, this shouldn't be a do while. This should be a while. In.hasNext. Ah, there we go. Compile. There we go. Okay, so the change there was instead of a do while, this needs to be a while loop, and this is asking the scanner, is there a next line? If there is a next line, go ahead and read it in, split it, and put it into the hash map. If there's no next line, this condition fails, and then we go on to close the file, and then we return the hash map. Okay, so what we got back from read file now is a hash map. So I can go, let's assign that to a import java.util.hashmap. Oops. Okay, so I can go hash map of string and string, let's call x equals e.read file. Okay, so now I can say x.get name, and it gives me John Doe. Okay, and x.get age, 37. X.get address. So you see how all the data that was in that file is now sitting in this hash map. So far I've done nothing about answering the specific question, which was print out the name and address. I've just simply said, pull all the data into this hash map and then return it to us, and then we'll be able to go and pull out the pieces we want. Now, one thing I've noticed here is that each one of the strings, I don't know if you can see that there, each one of the strings has a space sitting in front of that. Do you see that? Okay, so that's caused by splitting on the colon, which means that the value, the part to the right of the colon, has a space in front of it. Now, I could have split it on a colon and a space so that the space would be absorbed as the delimiter, but a good programming practice here would be to not include that space as part of the delimiter, because you might run what you want to do is you want your program to be a little flexible about the exact format. Like, what if somebody entered the data like this? Okay, what if they omitted the space between the colon and the value? I would think that's still a valid data file. I mean, you could be a stickler and say, no, there's got to be a space, but you know, why don't you be a little flexible and say, you might or might not have the space. So there's a couple things you can do. One is, after you split right here, you could then go do something like key value sub 1 equals key value sub 1 dot trim. Okay, and that'll pull off any white space that's sitting around the value. So any leading white space, any trailing white space will be taken away. You might actually want to do that to the key as well, so that any white space around that is eliminated. The other thing you could do, actually, let's compile that and let's run it, make sure it works. Import, and let's read the file in, and then let's get the age, and you see the space is gone. And let's do it for address. You see the space is gone there as well. So that's one way to do it, is just trim off the spaces around the value. The other way to do it is in your delimiter, you could say, I'm going to allow 0 or more spaces after the colon. So you see here it's a colon, and then a space, and then a star. And the star there means 0 or more spaces. And then we don't have to trim. Okay, so let's compile that. Let's do our extract, read the file. Whoops, I need to do the import. Where's my read file? There it is. And then that works the same. It eliminates the leading spaces from the value. Now, the downside of that is if there's any trailing spaces on the value, those won't get trimmed off. Okay, so that's why I kind of advocate using trim here, because it removes all the spaces on either side. In other words, if the file consisted of, let's say, multiple spaces there and a couple of extra spaces on the end, which you can't see normally, but when you pull it in and you just use the spaces as part of the delimiter, it's not going to eliminate the spaces on the end. And maybe you do want to get rid of those. So that's why I kind of think trimming is a little bit better. So doing something like that. Okay. So now that we've got our method called readFile that'll pull in the data into the hash, let's make a method that actually does the work. So let's go public void print name address. Actually, let's make this the main public. Nah, I know. Do it like this. Actually, let's make it string get name address. Okay, so I'll go hash map of string and string. Let's call it X, or P for person, equals new, equals read file data.txt. So this is kind of like just what I did on the code pad. And then I can say return p dot name appended to, let's say, a comma and a space, and then append that to p dot address. Okay, so I'm going to reach into the hash map, pull out the name, pull out the address, stick them together with a comma between them, and then return them. Whoops. I'm thinking a different language there. p.get name and p.get address. There we go. Okay, so now we can just make our new extract, and then I go e dot, what was it? Get name address. Get name address, and boom, John Doe 123 Main Street. Okay, so what I did here was I had get name address, just simply call my readFile method, and then it just pulls out the data out of the hash map. So notice that actually the one thing I'm really aiming for here is that readFile knows nothing about the actual contents of the file. All it knows is that there's a colon separating the names from the keys from the values. Otherwise, it knows nothing about the contents of the file. And it also doesn't know anything about the problem that I'm trying to solve here, which is to get the name and the address out. It just simply pulls in all the data, sticks it into a data structure, and then hands it off. And then get name address doesn't know anything about the format of the file either. All it knows is that it's going to be handed a hash map that consists of key value pairs, and it pulls in there and gets the data out. All right, so it makes it kind of really modularized, makes your program really modularized, because the two parts of the program kind of don't know what the other person's job is. All it knows is that data's coming in and it's getting stuffed into a data structure. The other one says, I got stuff in data structure, I'm just going to pull out the pieces that I need. So the reason why this is nice and flexible is, let's see what happens if, like I said, you omit a space there, a couple extra spaces there, and we can also change what's being done. Like, let's say I want to show just the age and the zip code of the person, and let's make that like that there. Let's save it, compile this. And it's still called get name address, but it's going to show the age and the zip code which should be 37, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it was really easy to modify my program to do something different. This, I wanted to change it from name and address to age and zip code, and all I had to do was change two things here, and I didn't have to go and plow through the rest of my program to find out where I was looking for the age and the zip code. I just simply went to the place where the hash map had all the information, and I just pulled it out. Kind of nice. So I wanted to keep this video kind of short, but maybe what I'll do next time is I want to show what happens if you have a file that looks like this, right? So let's go Jane Smith, and let's say 25. All right, so the idea is that there's actually two people in this file, and you want to be able to read each one of these chunks into a separate hash map. So what you'll end up with is an array of hash maps, where this would be essentially the 0th element of the array. This would be the first element of the array, and so forth. So you've got a whole bunch of names, so a whole bunch of people in this file. And let me just give you a brief preview of how you would do that. Is inside of your loop here, you will start reading in and putting it into the hash map, and then when you encounter a line that's blank, so that would be like right up here, you would say like if line dot equals nothing, right? So if the line is blank, then you make a new hash map and move to the next element of the array. And then you start, so after you've read in a whole hash map's worth of information about a person, you'll then kind of store that away, move to the next element of the hash map. Actually, so, no, I don't have time to do this. I was going to say, well, let's just do it, but I don't really have time to do it. I got to be done by 9 o'clock. So you read in a whole hash map's worth of information about a person, you store that into the first element of the array, a 0th element of the array, and then when you encounter that blank line, you create a brand new blank hash map and kind of start all over again, but now you move to the next element of the array. So that by the time you're done with this entire thing, you've now got an array of hash maps that you're returning out of read file. And then the other part of your program can just quickly loop through this array and do something like come up with the average age, right? So pluck out the ages of all the people as it's going, sum them up, divide by the number of elements, and then boom, you got your average. Okay, so this is a really neat way to work with data files, is splitting it up into a hash map, returning that hash map, and then having your other parts of your program just simply pull the data out of the hash map. The downside of this is you end up putting a lot of data into the hash map that isn't needed. Like in this program here, all I wanted was age and zip code. So the other stuff like occupation, address, city, state, that didn't get used at all. But that's kind of it's a minor price to pay for extreme flexibility in your program to be able to adapt it to new things. Okay, so the place where this gets used a lot, I mean, what I showed you here was just a typical kind of configuration file with key value pairs. But what you find on the internet are things called JSON documents. Let me just write it in this file here. JSON, which stands for JavaScript Object Notation. And it looks a lot like what I wrote up there, except that everything's inside of a curly brace. So it goes like this: name, colon, John Doe, comma, age, 37, colon, 37, comma, I think this is the right format, more or less, address, colon, 1, 2, 3, main. So it looks a lot like a key value pair, except that everything's just enclosed within curly braces, but you still have this key, colon, value, comma, key, colon, value. And it's really the same process of reading the file in, splitting it up by the commas, which gives you each key value pair, and then splitting those up on the colons, and then stripping out the stuff that's not needed, like the quotes and things like that. Right? But then all this stuff just goes into a hash map, and then you can very quickly pull the data out that you need. Windows registries. I don't know if you've seen those files, but they're basically key value pairs as well. See, where does it also just show up? Configuration files for web services, like if you configure an Apache web server, you'll see key value pairs. If you configure a PHP website like WordPress, key value pairs. This shows up all over the place. And the easiest way to deal with those files is suck them into a hash map and then process the files very quickly, or process the data structure. All right, so I think that's it for tonight. I do need to sign off kind of early tonight. Oh, thank you, Seeing94. It says, hi, your channel saved my life a few times. Thanks a lot. Awesome. I'm glad I can help you out. If you have any last second questions here, go ahead and post them on the chat. I'm going to sign off for now, but if you have any questions, post them on the chat and I'll just type the answers to you. So have a good evening, everyone. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.